is my research area, domain that really closely syncs with the work that you are doing for the society. Maybe that I am taking you to the domain from where these disasters are coming up, where you becomes the first respondent for the society. So if you can know about this, probably that would be better to you for responding very timely. So I'll take you to different types of disasters and sample values. What are the causes that are happening for them? Yes. So just to have glimpses of whether it is disaster or these are the events, I have designated these two things over here. What I say that events are associated with the normal geophysical and biological process causing death, injury, or loss of the life and body. But when it becomes a disaster, certain calamities and the events that are caused by the environmental causes, like you have the cyclones, you have the earthquake. So if it is very sudden, it damages life, it damages property. So these are the two things. When it becomes the event, if it is not losing more of the life properties, it remains as an event and then it becomes such a disaster. So what are the different types of disasters? You can understand these are the biological, geophysical, hydrological, meteorological, climatological. So different types are over there. I will not go much of details because in Punjab also trying to let you know about the climatic disasters and the black monsoons and Himalayan glaciers, etc. I'll bring you over there also. So quickly I'm switching over here. So if you go with the top 10 countries who are facing the disasters, you'll find US on the top, and we are not far away, we are also on the 4th position. If you look into this, India is highly vulnerable from the large number of disasters, and more than 59% of the land mass is prone to the earthquake. 68% of the cultivable area is vulnerable to the droughts. And you can think wherever you are required to support the society. Over 12% of the land is prone to the flood, and 700 kilometer length of the river are highly irritable. So it erodes and the banks collapse. Then you have 7,516 kilometer long coastlines prone to the cyclones and the tsunamis. And hilly areas are at risk from the landslide and the avalanche and the drought and the floods, etc. If you look into the map of India, and you can see these red lines top over there. The red lines are the earthquake and the seismic activities response to the disaster. Then you have the horizontal blue lines have the cyclone prone areas. Then the blue one is for the flood, and the slant line in the red orange color are for the drought. So different parts of India is vulnerable for the different types of the disasters. So you can see on the map, and if you can see the data, 7% of the land is vulnerable for the earthquake, and the 12% are vulnerable for the severe earthquake. So top Himalayan regions. 68% of the lands are vulnerable for the drought, another issue, while the 12% land is vulnerable for the floods, and 8% land is vulnerable for the cyclonic activities, mostly in the coastal regions. So if this kind of disaster happens, what we have to take away from here? See, in the past 20 years, 4.4 billion people, nearly 2/3 of the world's population have been caught up in natural disasters and causing dollars of $2 trillion of the damage. So this was the loss. So what to do with that? It says that it's far cheaper to prepare well for the disaster than to try to pick up the pieces afterwards. So more importantly, it can save a lot of lives. So this is your preparedness. It can be saved before the action takes place. That understanding has to understand what are the causes where I am taking you further. If we look at the different types of the disasters and their bar graph, the different colors are showing the geophysical with the red, meteorological with the green, hydrological with the blue one, and the red is the climatological disasters. So these disasters are, you will see from 1980 to the recent 2012 data says that the disasters are increasing in the bar length. It means what? With the progressive time domain, the disasters activities are increasing. So that one helps to understand the different types of disasters are increasing in their frequencies in the time domain. So worldwide extreme weather catastrophes because of the weather or the catastrophes that are taking place. These are extreme temperature droughts with the rainfall, blue is the floods, and the orange are the storms. So what do you find? These are in 2020. I'm showing you the data for 1980s. So in this 40 years, what do you find? That every disaster is increasing in its own bar length. That's the frequency of the disaster increasing with the time we are spanning to the 21st century. This is your beautiful Earth. This is very popular photograph taken by the Apollo mission of NASA. And from here, in this Earth, we have a very thin layer of the atmosphere. I'm now coming to the causes for all these disasters. So this is a very thin layer. How much time I've given? I've taken floor by about 6:10. 6:14 is now. So with this thin layer of the atmosphere, what we are doing? Here we have to think about it. And everybody is responsible for this. We are shipping 162 million tons of the man-made global warming pollution to thin sail of this atmosphere every 24 hours, thinking that this is a sheer potential. So this understanding won't help you think this is a man-made problem and that is creating the disasters. We'll see now for the slides also the total reason. What is the reason behind this? What happens? The solar energy that the Earth absorbs, and from the absorption of the Earth, it re-radiates back to the atmosphere. So while going back to the atmosphere, if it could escape to the space, the energy is coming and going back, so balance of energy will be less or neutral. But what happens? It is now the two different domains. So 50% is being trapped back. Who is sending it back? The sending back is nothing else than that the atmosphere layer. And those layers which contain the greenhouse gases and the here contribution of the carbon dioxide is measured to have the methane, fluorocarbon, several greenhouse gases are there, SOx and NOx are there. But carbon dioxide is playing an important role, and carbon dioxide is coming from where? Because of so many sources you can see of it. From aviations to the forest fire, to the crop burning, which I was saying, to addition to the person from the Amritsar, the Punjab, Haryana, and Mr. Pradesh also is doing the same practice. Crop burning, then you have the industrial process, industrial agriculture, and the coal fields and mining, so many aspects. These all are the source of the greenhouse gases, and 162 trillion tons is because of this emission. So from here, see from 1850 to the present era, it's a long database giving you a very clear picture which is responsible and how much it is responsible. Looking from here, what you find from 1850 to 2023, the present contribution of this carbon dioxide because of the fossil fuel burning, and this will increase much more because of this war where the burning is increased when you are attacking with the airfields. So it all will contribute much more to the coming years data. So this shows about 26 billion metric tons of the carbon dioxide emission is coming by 2023. So this much, how it is impacting. So see from here how the energy trapped by man-made global warming pollution is now equivalent to the explosion. If you can put your mic to my laptop would be good. If you can put the mic in there, you can put for the next slide. So yes, it's yet. You're not working. So this 750,000 of first generation atomic bomb. If I say first generation atomic bomb, this is the bomb that has been dropped in the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So 750,000 explosion of equivalent of that bomb, and every day or 365 days in a year, this much energy is being absorbed because of those pollution that we are doing. So you can visualize this, and this explosion you can imagine that you must be watching so many explosions of this kind. So there's also sound animation, but it is not coming like this. Yeah. So 750,000 times per day of this energy coming up. So with this, if you look into the data from AN 1880 to going to the 2023, Here we have tried to plot the anomalies. Anomalies are the values plotted from the average data, how much there is an increase, how much there is a decrease. So this gives you very clear understanding how much increases there and how much decrease. So if you see from here, in 1880, 1895, 1908, what you find, there are some positive, some negative. But after 1940s, it's all positive. And when you move to the 1970s onward, when it is more industrialized era, this is all going up and trying to beat with the earlier one. And this is showing about 1.45 degrees of warming to the average temperature. So this much warming of Earth has already taken place. And it was supposed that by 21st century ending, it will go to 1.5, which has arrived as of now. So the new scenario gives that it may go about 2.5 to 3 degrees Celsius by end of century, and by that time it will be really unbearable to us. So how it impacts? See closely. The 10 hottest years on record have been the last 10 years. And those last 10 years are 23, 20, likewise. So this is the hottest, and in this order, all these are over there. So this century is warming like anything. So if you top 10, if you go for top 20, 19 will come in this century, and only one of the 1999 is of the last century. So this is your 21st century is warming is too much. So these are creating, because of the climate change, several disasters. You can have the intense drought, tomato scarcity, severe fires, rising sea level, flooding, melting polar ice, catastrophic storms, and declining of the biodiversity. So all these are a kind of impact because of this changing climate. See this. In Brazil, temperature has gone to 44.8 degrees Celsius. In Saudi Arabia, it goes to 55 degrees Celsius, and much more than your Rajasthan has witnessed the highest temperature. Anybody who can guess the highest temperature of Rajasthan? That's the highest of India too. Churu. I'm talking about the highest, not the lowest. Follow the very good, right answer. How much? We will find. 51. Kuwait city experienced temperature to 51 degrees Celsius in July 2017. What has happened there? In August, birds in the city died and fell from the sky because of the heat exposure. So impact is not only the human, all creatures. You can survive with your ACs and all preventive measures, but for them, you have to think for them because of their no fault. Here again, in UAE, 51.5 degrees Celsius, June 16 to 2017. So on May 19, 2016, India set a new all-time record of 51 degrees Celsius, and the location already set for the Rajasthan. In future, the climate in large part of the Middle East and the North Africa could render some regions uninhabitable. What does it mean? When temperature increases, it could be not bearable to you. What will do? You have to move from that. So that will create a climate refugees, shifting from the cooler locations. That we also call the niche areas where the sustainability can exist. So these are going to be, so this will create a pressure to migrate from one location to the other, and to those there will be high population density, again survival will be very difficult. So many parts of the tropics, in particular home to 3 billion people. Tropics we call as 30 degree north, 30 degree south from the equator. So in tropics, 3 billion populations are living, will experience unlivable heat and humidity conditions if global temperature rises by 1.5 degrees Celsius, and we are close to that. So see on the globe, the current conditions, these black dots are showing that these are the current unlivable conditions where it is difficult to live. But what it says by projection 2070, larger locations will be unlivable. So all those people will try to move to the locations where it has the comfortable temperature shown. And that comfortable temperature zone will have more inflow of the people, and again a survival will be difficult. So one has to think of it. On May 2022, India hit wave, and Chandni Singh, Indian Institute of Practice, said that you can only adapt so much. This heat wave is testing the limit of the human survival. In a report, he claimed because of the rising temperature, so this is a kind of testing. If you can survive, you can be. If you can't, you have to go. The largest creature, even dinosaur, could not survive. So adaptability or resilience being taught talks over there. So if you could be resilient, adaptable to those increasing temperature, probably you will be on the earth. Otherwise, you can know where you will be. So this is saying that the globally 31.8 million people were displaced because of the extreme weather in 2022. And this is 3.5 million more than any conflict. So this weather conditions is forcing more climate refugees even than any conflict, and the war conditions are forcing to migrate. From 2016 to 2021, an average of 20,000 children a day were displaced by extreme weather and climate disasters. This is from Pakistan. These are the conditions. People 20,000 every year children are getting displaced because the weather conditions are not given. Of displaced people around the world since the World War is as of now called the climate change scenario. So the world could see up to 1 billion climate migrants. Your present population has gone to about 8 billion, and 1 billion will be migrant according to climate change. And this is your beautiful house again. So this is not only impacting temperature to the atmosphere, and 3% of the extra heat trapped by the man-made global warming pollution goes also into the ocean. So how ocean is reacting on this increasing temperature? See this. The different colors are showing the impact on the atmosphere, land, and the ice, and the ocean with the blue colors. The major thing to understand from here, because of the time paucity, I will not go in much details. Only you think the half of the increase in the ocean heat content is 50% is coming from where? 2007 to 2023. So again, recent year, like the temperature records, like the ocean temperature also in the recent years, it is increasing too much. Then it will have the lots of the cyclones activities and all. So this will be as a climate moving quickly like hurricanes. So this is another example of the Florida hurricanes. So quickly move. This is from the Indian Amphan. And there are several cyclone activities happening in Indian side and coastal regions are quickly moving. The hydrological cycles are spinning out of the balance as a result of the climate change and the human activities. So this is from the World Meteorological Organization, the data, hydrological disasters. So the climate change has intensified the Earth's water cycle at about twice the expected rate. So water cycle is also changing. In water cycle, what you have? The evaporation, condensation, and the runoff and the flood. So this water cycle has moved twice in its. So you have the extreme events conditions happening too much because the warmer air can hold much more water vapor, and 1 degree Celsius rise of the temperature can hold 7% more water vapor. And if your atmosphere is having 7% more water vapor, it will have the more rainfall. That will give you the severe cyclones, the damages, and the flooding conditions. So that one has to be very cautious about this. And there are already 5% to 15% more water vapor, and again, with 1 degree, it will add to 7% more. What will happen to the extreme weather conditions of these climate change impacts? So the downpour gets bigger. The bigger rainfall, you will find this kind of the thick clouds, darker clouds, having torrential rainfall and simple the flood. If it is this, it is the not torrential rainfall, smaller rain intensities, it percolates even to the groundwater. But with the heavy rainfall, it goes as a runoff, so converts only into the flood. So these are the conditions of the upper atmosphere, the moisture movement, and the cyclone formation, and then the rainfall. So I'll skip quickly from here. These are the thermal temperatures. You can see quickly some of the incidences from the August 13.9 feet of the air that polar history has taken place of this much. Then you have the Tamil Nadu in India. Even the flyover is getting submerged. So this was the flood conditions are there. This we call as the river of atmospheric river of water. So from this moisture moving from upper atmosphere is called atmospheric river. So this is making the habitable conditions to the many locations of South Africa and all. So many more parts. This slide is coming again. Yes. So this is the hydrological cycle again getting disturbed. So with this disturbance, what is happening? More temperature will have the more evaporation, more evaporation will give the more water. But another aspect is that this will also give rise to the drought conditions. Another disaster is happening to drought. This kind of conditions you can imagine. The cracks in the soil because of the less soil moisture. So another impact. Next impact goes on the hotter years will have the more forest fire. And you can look into this, the more numbers of forest fire increasing in Great Lakes in 2018. The three most expensive wildfire in the world industry have happened in the last 2 years. That these years were 18, 17, again 18 two times in California. So forest fire are increasing. You have the Canada forest fires conditions. And the more drought creates the longer fire seasons or even a continuous fire season, that's the bigger catastrophe is happening mostly in the US. Again from Australia, then you have the Colombia. These are the smokes identified around the globe. Wherever you have these dots, these are the forest fire locations. So many places are under the forest fire because of this rise in the temperature, making more vulnerable for the forest fire. So we are at the war, not the war that is happening. We are at the war in terms of the climate crisis. And we have to think what preparedness are taking place in the war conditions. So for the climatic changes, we have to take this appropriate action like food control measures. Then only we can survive, otherwise we are at the risk. So climate change will likely to lead to food and the water shortage, pandemic disease. We have witnessed the corona again because of climate change. Disputes over the refugees and the resources and the destruction of the natural disasters are in the region across the globe. It's not for the one country. Across the globe, this will happen. So this will impact your food, water, and the disease. So these are examples from the maize crop of the Brazil. It is not maturing proper, so the crop rate is reducing. It says in Malawi, 44% of the maize crop has failed to be affected by the drought. These are impacting Indian households. So food security is again jeopardized because of this climate effects. Premature corns are over there. So there has been under-recognition of just how sensitive crops are to the heat and how fast heat exposure is increasing. One has to see with this. So overall, in the 40% rise in the warming, reduced by 6% in productivity. Soybean will reduce by 3%, and rice will reduce by 3.2% of its yield because of 1 degree Celsius rise. And accordingly, you can multiply if it is 2 degrees, so double of the percentage that has been shown over here. Rising concentrations of the carbon dioxide are also threatening global nutrition by reducing level of nutrients in the food crop like rice. So the grains you are eating is having less nutrition because of this exposure of the climatic changes, especially the temperature and heat strokes. So if you compare, the older people are having much stronger build. They have grown on the good quality food who are eating. The genetically modified varieties where the nutrients are also less. These are aspects of temperature. This kind of the grains are coming up. This also creates the toxic accumulation in parts of these grains. So sometimes it gives you the disease associated with when you are eating it. Water scarcity is another aspect of it. So already temperature more than 40% of the world population are affected because of the water scarcity. About 2 billion people are not getting the proper potable water for drinking. They are at the compromise. And these are the conditions even in India. Half of the Bangalore city properties from the Karnataka. Water wells are being tried, and one third of the areas, about 14 million residents, rely on this water. And leaving many with no choice but to purchase expensive water trucked from the other areas. You can justify this. From the Mexico, the condition like India, water scarcity is there, everybody has to struggle at the same time. So more than 68% of the world fresh water are frozen in the glaciers. So there again impact is happening because of the rising temperature and the climate change. See, these are somebody was our speakers lakes. So these are the locations where the lakes are generating, and when these lakes burst out, this has a catastrophe associated with the large amount of birds flowing with high speed and coming much to the downstream population. So up to 80% of the Himalayan glaciers would melt by 2100. So by end of the century, depending on how quickly we reduce the emission. If this pace emissions are going on, this projection is right, and if we can control this emission, of course we will have the remedy and this impact will reduce. These glaciers provide water to approximately 1/4 of the world's population. So Himalayan glaciers are providing what 2 billion people are sustaining on this fresh water coming from the Himalayas out of the 8 billion. The rate of ice melt in the Himalayas has already doubled since present to the 2000 to the present time. So key glaciers in the Sierra Nevada is also reducing from the US. This is 75% since the beginning of the 20th century. So their loss is much higher than even the Himalayas. 75% losses are happening over there. From the Argentina, if you look, the glaciers in the Andes are melting faster than any other region of the world, and some of the glaciers are already vanished out. Then you have the polar ice caps are also much vulnerable, and they are reducing their masses. And this says the permafrost in the Arctic has gone at an average of 6 degrees Celsius rise since 1995. Permafrost are those water that is frozen within the soil. If it is of the low temperature zone, if you go to the lower Himalayas, you will find that the soil moisture are frozen. And if temperature rises, the soil moisture also melts from there, and it further releases the greenhouse gases because there are some methane, etc., trapped within the glaciers. So that's again addition to the greenhouse gases. The Arctic has now transitioned from the carbon sink to the air carbon emitter. Because if it is melting, the greenhouse gases are getting released, and from that, it becomes a carbon emitter. Otherwise, the carbon sinks over there. And this is radiation coming and the melting of glaciers. See how it is reducing, and the polar ice caps. So Arctic ice loss in the data you can see over here. So ice loss per year in million metric tons is over here. Right? These are the years 2009 to 22 over here, 92 to 2009. So from here the loss was less in 79 to 89, and it is increasing like anything. So the recent data it shows about 250 million metric tons is the loss by the present era from the Arctic ice. And this ice will contribute to the sea level rise. In fact, it's not only over here, it contributes to the sea level rise. So the coastal region is more vulnerable. Antarctic ice mass declined since 2002 to 2023. You can see with the data what you find the value of this to reduce it to this much. So it is losing by 2,500 of the gigaton of the mass. Again, from the Antarctica, you can see all this where this broken like the ice balls, these all chunks are coming out. Greenland is losing mass of 30 million tons of ice every single hour. That Greenland is also very popular present era. That Trump is claiming that this is either you come to the US attack on whatever the reason, but the ice mass is losing the Greenland. Greenland is only the ice land. So it's green, but there is no green. And you can see another Greenland was glaciers. And what is happening is you can see the shape of these glaciers, and impact is thereafter. All these glaciers melted out and there is the water now. These are formations of the lakes, and these lakes pushed out, so that's the impact is the glacial lake outburst flood. And if you look for the decline in the ice masses, see how much loss is there. 5,500 gigatons of the mass loss is by 2023 if you compare from the 2002. So 20 years. See in the Greenland is where the cart pulled by the dog is, now they are on the water. So top 10 cities are at risk because of the sea level rise in 2017. In top 10 cities, what do you find? Kolkata, Mumbai are the first and second. Risk is because of the population. The people, more people under risk is Kolkata and Mumbai because of the sea level rise. If you see in terms of the losses or the impact in terms of the assets, properties, that was the population affected. So in that, Kolkata is coming third, that was first, and none other than this. There's only one city in terms of the assets, but in terms of the coastal population getting affected, Kolkata and Mumbai both are over there. And another calamities are coming, that is the we call it this lightning strikes. So with 1 degree Celsius of the warming, lightning strikes increases by 10 to 12%. And you know with the lightning strike there are further life casualties are happening. So this is another disaster coming up because of this changing climate. The rate of ice melt in the Himalayas has doubled since the year 2000. So we are not exception, but we are increasing much more melting rate that has gone down compared to the last 20 years. These are the work that I'm working over there and the observations based on the data. We are giving the publications and research are going on. I've supervised about 16 PhD scholars, 10 worked on the Himalayan glaciers, and these are vertical melting. These sticks were all dipped into the glaciers. When the glacier ice melts, the sticks are getting exposed. And one stick is a 2 meter, so you can imagine 4 meters of vertical thinning has taken place already to one location. Likewise, a different location has a different melting. Here you can have the 2 meter plus 1 meter, 3 meters of the other locations. Likewise, we calculate the total loss of the glaciers masses accordingly, discharge calculations and the future comparison and predictions how much water it will have. And then this research is very much important for this hydropower project. And the downstream people where the water supply, they are depending on the water supply. So this research helps over there. These are the snowfall locations to know how much input of snow has taken place, and the stakes here for the melting computation. And together we create the balance, whether the input was more or less. So most of the year it is less. So those data we have published in several, even the nature scientific report we have published 3 publications out of this kind of research. When you're working in the Himalayas, it will be like this, you will not be so smarter because the sun radiation is directly exposed to you, your face burns like anything. And after coming with few durations, you will have the old skin going on and new skin coming up. So I said this is the rejuvenation phase. So go and work in the Himalayas. You will have new skin. You don't require to go to the parlor at all. So October 13, 2014, it says the climate change will likely to lead food and water shortage, pandemic disease, disputes about the refugees and the natural disasters in the region across the globe. So this is an emergency here. So after all, knowing all this, what we have as a solution, knowing the problem is not a good thing. We have to work for the solution. So I'm coming to the solutions. We have some solution in hand because most of these things are the man-made problems. Though there are cyclic natures of the climate change, it will made, but the rate has increased because of the more and more pollution with the atmosphere that started in this 162 billion metric tons per day pollution that we are detecting. Solution is what? The green energy processes. Green energy, what are there? Green energy are your hydropower, the solar power, the wind energy. What we are doing? Wind capacity, worldwide wind capacity will reach to 30 gigawatt by 2010 was an expectation when it was projected in 2000. People are all working on that. IPCC is there, the global consortiums are there, the countries are working how to reduce this. So they took into 2000 a projection to have by 2010 30 gigawatts of the wind turbines for energy, but in reality what they did about They have achieved by 2023 34 times more than they have thought of it. That's the very positive sign. Here we are moving to the green energy through this wind energy exploration so much. This data from the 2000 you find is 150 plus of the gigawatt capacity through the wind energy we are harnessing globally. That's a very positive sign. These are the windmills. So onshore wind generations in the new of this showing. We have several mills in our coastal regions. India also working on it. And the wind parks are like this, where you can generate this. Globally, wind could supply worldwide electricity consumption 40 times over than you require. Even wind power, if you can harness, it is 40 times more than your need. So you have the other green energy sources. Only we need to harness it. Coming to the another projections of the solar energy progress. Again, in 2002, the projections were assumed that the solar energy market will grow by about 1 gigawatt per year by 2010. This was the assumptions. They started working on it, and the reality shows that the goal was exceeded by 17 times more. So here also we are moving much faster and more than expectation by 17 times. So what is there in solar energy? In 2023, it has come by 445 times more. So you can even also think in most of the Indian household rooftop solar panels, and there are many solar parks in India. Even Modi ji has also announced in the COP meeting that by 2070 we are going for the zero emission. We are working on that. We are also progressing very fast. So these are the aspects. So if we are moving in the direction, probably we are solution oriented. Then cost of the crystalline silicon solar cell modules. Why we are improving in the solar energy harnessing 445 times more is because the cost. The cost were about $80 for voltaic cell is now coming to $0.11 per watt. So cheaper. That's why people are more oriented towards it. And there are some government schemes. If you have your solar panels on your rooftop, you will get some rebate on your electricity bill. So that is further promoting them to install on the rooftop. Global installed power capacity has also increased. These are for the non-renewable energy, and this is for the renewable energy. Non-renewable energy are your fossil fuel, the grey ones. And by 2023, we have this renewable energy. When we say renewable energy, this is also including the solar, wind, hydropower, nuclear energy altogether. So we have gone much ahead, but still we require to go to such extent that we don't have this grey bar over here. So we are not consuming this fossil fuel, only green energy. That would be a right solution. Further, the energy capacity growth in the last 20 years. Solar, you can see this. 417 times. So clap for all those guys who are working on solar energy. Renewable energy in India, that was the global giga, C for India. And this thanks goes to every person who is thinking this positively and installing solar panels on their rooftop. So by 2030, India plans to have 500 gigawatts of renewable energy electricity capacity, and that is in place. Worldwide, carbon-free source generated more electricity than the coal or natural gas in 2023. So this change is very positive change. Global electric cars on road, you can see from 2011 to now, 40 millions by 2023. This is again a good sign that we are reducing the consumption of the fossil fuel on that. The number of EV jobs in the US increased by 27%. So the jobs are increasing for the EV engineers and the mechanics, etc. From 21 to 22. fastest increase in the energy technology. So clean vehicles provided 59% of all new jobs in the motor vehicle across the country. Lithium battery prices are reducing here also. This is the motivation. Price reduction for the photovoltaic cell is the motivation there. Here also having reduction in the prices. That's why more EV will come on the road, and that will be less dependency on the fossil fuel. Global investment in the battery storage has increased too much by 2023. And the global cumulative solar capacity again has gone much ahead. And by 2023, we are projecting to 650 by 2023. So as of 2022, there were 2,923 jobs in battery storage and more jobs and more power plants. So these are also giving jobs to the people. Investments in the renewable and energy efficient that creates 3 times more jobs than average for other conditions, other technologies. So the global investment in energy projects for the fossil fuel, see the global conditions, grey war, and now you see the green energy. So this comparison you can have for the global investment. The money the people are investing the money for this energy is this money investment on that. And this is again another solution for putting the greenery more. You can add on to the growth. This acts as a carbon dioxide sink. That's for everybody's hand, and as a volunteers, you can play a very important role in doing this also. And this is thank you to all for your patience listening. And I'm open for the questions and answers. Yes, sir, please. We have only one mic, so we have to say it. Yes. That's there.
थैंक यू सर, आपने बहुत अच्छा लेक्चर दिया और ज़्यादा एक्सप्लेन किया और बाकी कुछ एक्सप्लेन किया। का कारण है इसके बारे में कहीं नहीं बोलते हैं और ये बहुत
आपने बहुत सही बात कही है। पॉपुलेशन इसका सबसे बड़ा कारण है। यहाँ नहीं बोला हूँ, अगर मैं अपने क्लास में पढ़ाता बच्चों को तो पॉपुलेशन ही सबसे बड़ा कारण नहीं जान सकता। अगर हम 50s में 1950 तक चले जाते हैं, आप पॉपुलेशन देखिए, हमारे पास इतने ज्यादा रिसोर्सेज थे कि एवरीबॉडी हैज प्लेंटी ऑफ इट। नाउ वी आर स्ट्राइविंग फॉर इट। पॉपुलेशन की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी? बिकॉज़ ऑफ पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज। जब ग्रेन्स थे तो इन पॉपुलेशन से हमने क्या पाया? ग्रेन इंक्रीज हो गया, फूड सस्टेनेबल हो गया हमारे लिए। अब उसके बाद क्या हुआ? सॉइल फर्टिलिटी गई। अब एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं पंजाब हरियाणा के लोग एक और नया ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन हो, क्योंकि बहुत पैसे कमाए, बहुत रिच हो गए, उनको आदत गई है। अब कहाँ तक लोग इस धरती पे क्षमता नहीं रह गई, और अब खेती करने की धरती कहाँ बची है? आपने कितने फॉरेस्ट काट दिए पॉपुलेशन को सर्वाइव करने के लिए। जब आपको काटा है तो कार्बन सिंक तो आपका कम हो गया ना। तो इसलिए मैंने कहा कि जहाँ आपको मिले पेड़ लगे, बहुत बड़ा कारण है, बल्कि मेजर कारण वही है। पॉपुलेशन के साथ साथ अगर आपको ऐड करना चाहिए उसमें, तो इन लोगों की जो आदतें हैं, जो हैबिट्स है ना, लाइफ स्टाइल है ना, ये और बड़ा कारण है। मैं आपको एक और डेटा बताता हूँ। हमारा पॉपुलेशन बढ़ता है, डबल होता है, तो वाटर डिमांड डबल नहीं होता, वाटर डिमांड 6 टाइम जाता है। क्यों? क्योंकि अगर उसी रेशियो में हम आते तो लीनियर रेशियो नहीं रह गया। हर एक आदमी की लग्जरियस लाइफ हो गई, उसको जितना पानी चाहिए था उसका 3 टाइम तो मांग रहा है। तो डबल पॉपुलेशन मतलब 6 टाइम वाटर डिमांड, वाटर स्कार्सिटी उसी कर दिया है। हमें पता नहीं चलता कि जब हम शावर के नीचे नहा रहे हैं तो कितना पानी हमारे ऊपर से चला गया, 200 लीटर के 500 लीटर। जब हम कुएं पे जाते थे, हैंडपंप पे जाते थे, जब 2 बकेट निकालते थे तो यहाँ दर्द होता था, अब नहाना हो गया है। तो किसी चेले को पकड़ते थे 2 बाल्टी तो भी देते तो 4 बाल्टी से नहाऊंगा, आज थोड़ा अच्छा से नहाना है। तो वो आदतें जो हमारी बदली है ना, वो सबसे बड़ा कारण है। लेकिन मामला ये है, हमने आपको शुरू में ही कहा था, ये जो 162 बिलियन मेट्रिक टन जो हम प्रोडक्शन भेज रहे हैं, ये एवरी डे ये कौन कर रहा है? हम कर रहे हैं। इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन किसके लिए हुआ? ज्यादा लोग हुए, ज्यादा अच्छी चीजें चाहिए, लग्जरी चाहिए, इंडस्ट्री 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 हर जगह इंडस्ट्री। अब आप देखिए इसमें आगे बढ़ करके कार्बन क्रेडिट की बात आती है। आपके यहाँ कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट करने आता है, वो आपका भला करने नहीं आ रहा है, वो आपका कार्बन क्रेडिट खरीद रहा है, आपको थोड़े एम्प्लॉयमेंट तो दे देगा, लेकिन चूंकि आप गरीब थे, आपने उतना उत्सर्जन नहीं किया था, आपकी कार्बन क्रेडिट बची हुई थी, वो आपके इन्वेस्ट करेगा। अब ये धुआं आपके कार्बन क्रेडिट बैलेंस हो जाएगा, और अमेरिका को उसकी चिंता नहीं है, इंग्लैंड को उसकी चिंता नहीं है, उसकी इंडस्ट्री यहाँ पे थोड़ा जॉब दे दिया, फिर उसकी कमाई अपने पास लेके चला गया। जो अपने यहाँ इंडस्ट्री लगा करके नहीं कर सकता, बिकॉज दे हैव एग्जॉस्टेड देयर लिमिट ऑफ द कार्बन क्रेडिट। तो ये भी एक बात।
और सर इस इतने सीरियस कारण के कब तक हम नहीं बोलेंगे, और ये तो बहुत अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म है बोलने के लिए।
नहीं, मेरा उद्देश्य ये था कि मैं नहीं बोलना चाह रहा था, मुझे क्या लग रहा था कि टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट्स होता है। अगर हमें पूरे लेक्चर हम देखिए बहुत सारी चीजों को हम ढंग से एक्सप्लेन नहीं किए, जल्दी जल्दी चलते चलेंगे तो और टेक्निकलिटी में भी लेके आ सकते थे, और बहुत सारा स्लाइड है मैं क्या हम कहते हैं दूसरा लेक्चर में बोलूंगा उसके बारे में पॉपुलेशन के कंसर्न में लेके आऊं। एक लिमिटेड टाइम में आधा घंटा क्या कर लग रहा है कि उसी फिनिश करने के लिए थोड़ा ज्यादा ही ले लिया हूं।
सर मैंने इतने लेक्चर सुने, किसी भी लेक्चर में पॉपुलेशन पे एक शब्द किसी ने नहीं बोला, जबकि ये प्लेटफॉर्म हमें नहीं बताएंगे, जब पब्लिक को नहीं होगा। आपने एक बहुत बढ़िया की बताई कि बच्चे वो नहीं करते जो वो चाहते, बच्चे वो करते हैं जो वो देखते हैं। अगर ये हम फॉलो करेंगे तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि
बिल्कुल नहीं बोला तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ पॉपुलेशन इज द मेजर डिजास्टर्स। ये सारे जो हमारे इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन है, लाइफस्टाइल है, अभी आप देखते हैं कंक्रीट जंगल आपने कन्वर्ट कर दिया, एनर्जी ट्रैप होती है, उसको बोलते हैं हीट आइलैंड इफेक्ट। आप देखेंगे उस सिटी के बाहर का टेंपरेचर कम होगा, इसका ज्यादा होगा। जैसे लगता है ना पानी के बीच में एक टापू हो जाना, जिसको हम अपने टेक्नोलॉजी में जो रिसर्च बोलते हैं उसको बोलते हैं हीट आइलैंड इफेक्ट। ये जो थोड़ा सा आइलैंड बना है ये हीट आइलैंड है, गर्मी पैदा करने वाला है। तो ये सारे हमारे वो पुराने टाइम के घर में अच्छे नहीं लगते हैं, जब उसके होते थे, मिट्टी के घर होते थे, वो एनर्जी इतनी एब्जॉर्ब नहीं करती थी, इफेक्ट हो जाती थी, आपको ठंडक भी मिलती थी। अब इस तरह के घरों के लिए जो गर्मी जब इतना बाहर पैदा कर रही है, घर में भी गर्मी होती है, तो क्या करते हैं आप एसी चलाते हैं। एसी सबको अफोर्ड करेगा, उस एसी के कारण क्लोरोफ्लोरोकार्बन तमाम एमिशंस हो रहे हैं, फिर ग्रीन हाउस गैस बढ़ता चला जाता है। तो ये हमें पॉजिटिव फीडबैक देता जा रहा है और मोर एंड मोर वार्मिंग क्रिएट कर रहा है। तो ये हम ही है उसके लिए दोषी। हमारे ऋषियों के टाइम में तो हम प्रकृति के हिसाब से जीते थे, कभी किसी ने बात ही नहीं की, एनवायरमेंट के बारे में कोई बोलता नहीं था सर कि क्या स्थिति होगी।
एनीवे थैंक यू वेरी मच, और मैं ये उम्मीद करूंगा कि आने वाले लेक्चर में इस पॉइंट पर जरूर बोलेंगे।
बोल दिया नहीं भी बोलेंगे तो इसको मान लीजिए पॉपुलेशन के लिए हमने ये लोग तो भी सर ज्यादा कभी तो बायोडाइवर्सिटी बात करता हो रही है।
सर जी क्वेश्चन पूछा था कि आपने ये बता दिया कि जमा हुआ तो एक्सीलरेशन रेट ऑफ द आइस अगर ये मेजर सिस्टम पर कंट्रोल करता है जो भी, तो ये रेट ऑफ रिवर्सल क्या हो सकता है?
बहुत बढ़िया क्वेश्चन आपने पूछा है, थैंक यू फॉर दिस नाइस क्वेश्चन। इट्स अ वेरी टेक्निकल एंड साइंटिफिक क्वेश्चन दैट यू हैव आस्क्ड एंड फ्रॉम coming from the student volunteer, it's a proud to me sometimes when the learner people are not asking this question। मैं आपको बताऊं साहब, अभी जो हमने देखा ग्रीन एनर्जी हमने इतना आगे बढ़ गया है, 441 टाइम्स हमने कर लिया है, अभी और करने के जब तक फोसिल फ्यूल का खत्म नहीं हो जाता ग्रे वाला, वो खत्म होने के बाद भी तुरंत नहीं चेंज होगा। जितना एमिशन हमने रखा है कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस का एटमॉस्फेयर में, इनको कन्वर्ट में एब्जॉर्ब होने में फिर भी टाइम लगेगा। अगर आज आप सोच लें कि जीरो एमिशन कर देता हूं तो अनदर 50 to 70 इयर्स लेगा जब वो पुराने टैंक का बैलेंस में जाएगा। अभी हमारा कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड 650 पार्ट्स पर बिलियन हो गया है, जो कि स्टैंडर्ड वैल्यू होता था 33-35 का। तो सोचिए कितना हमने कर रखा है। तो धीरे धीरे वो कंज्यूम होने में, कंज्यूम कहाँ होगा, वो प्लांट्स के थ्रू कंज्यूम होगा। अब हमारा फाइबर प्रैक्टिस के थ्रू होता है ओशन में, 90% तो वहाँ पे कंज्यूम होता है, तो वो थोड़ा सा क्या हमारा ये टाइम लगेगा। लेकिन अगर अभी भी नहीं सोचेंगे तो क्या होगा, सूनर फेस देखने इंडस्ट्री हो जाएगी। अभी एक डायनासोर की तरह की प्रजाति होती थी और चली गई, फिर अगला जनरेशन धीरे धीरे फिर इवॉल्व होगा जब चले जाएगा। वहाँ किसने हाथ उठाया प्लीज, उधर जाओ पीछे भाई साहब।
सर आपने जो लेसन पढ़ाया है, एक सवाल मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ।
बिल्कुल पूछिए, अच्छा लगेगा, लगता है जिज्ञासु विद्यार्थी सामने हो तो बहुत अच्छा लगता है प्रोफेसर को, प्लीज पूछिए।
अभी भविष्य में सर ग्रीन एनर्जी क्रेडिट्स के बारे में थोड़ा सा और बताइए।
भविष्य में ग्रीन एनर्जी
क्रेडिट जैसे बनता है एक प्रोजेक्ट है, वो आने वाले भविष्य के हिसाब से जिसके पास ज्यादा वाटर रिसोर्स रहेगी, ज्यादा ग्रीन